Hi, this is Linda with Craft on Cue, and I'm here with the Week 5 Take Me Deeper journal page for hiskingdomcome.com. And I thought this week I would do a process video as well as just a flip through of the page that I did. This week it was really a rough scripture for me. It's Philippians 2 verses 12 to 13. And I just thought about it, pondered, prayed, researched this scripture, and just could not decide how to translate that into a journal page. So it was getting down to the wire yesterday, and I was looking through an old magazine for something quite different, not even for this journal. This one was not even in my mind when I was looking, but I ran into this double page spread in Good Housekeeping, and it was about the Badlands, but it struck me how beautiful the artwork was, so I decided to use this as a background for my journal this week. And the sky with the oranges and yellows, it just reminded me of the heavens, and then you have the mountains and what looks to me like a little desert and some green space at the front. So after thinking about it, I pulled the page out yesterday, and then I just reread the scripture, reread my study guides that they have over at His Kingdom Come in the Take Me Deeper group, as well as my study Bible, the St. Ignatius Study Bible that I have on my Kindle, and decided I wanted to make a pathway through this terrain. So that's what I did. I made the pathway. Well, first, let me backtrack. I adhered this double page spread, as you're seeing here, onto my journal with some Yoo-Hoo glue stick, and then I just trimmed it with my Olfa silver trimmer, and my Fiskars, that plastic pad underneath, and my Tim Holtz ruler with the metal edge. So once I got that all trimmed, you can see the pathway that I made, and I did that by using some tracing paper and just trying to follow the terrain a little bit and make it a twisty turny road. And then I cut that out of cardstock and then just colored it up with black soot distress ink. I have some vintage photo, some Heidi Swapp gold color shine, and cut that out. And now what you see me doing here is adhering it onto the page with my Yoo-Hoo stick. And I'm using glue stick here exclusively because it's a magazine page, and I was afraid that it would wrinkle, or maybe the wet glue would somehow make the ink on the page smear or something. So anyway, I've used my Yoo-Hoo glue stick exclusively in this project. So there's the pathway that I drew, and as typical, I always take my brayer to brayer down things that I glue, just to make sure that they're adhered well. And I want to make sure that that page folds properly, so I'm just taking a little bit more time with this to make sure that that pathway stays put once it dries. So after that, you'll see me pull out several, actually there's 7 sayings, and I got those directly from my scripture study, from my study Bible, and it refers back to 7 different scriptures for this Philippians 2, verses 12 to 13. Pursue with fear and trembling is from Psalms 2, verses 11 to 12. Selfishness is from Romans 8 through 13. Fight evil, Ephesians 6, verse 11. Praying in earnest, 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 17. Strive for holiness, Hebrews 12, verse 13. Good works, Romans 2, verse 7. Follow the commandments, Matthew 19, verse 17. And faith, 2 Timothy 4, verse 78. And those are things that it talks about in that Bible study, how to interpret that particular scripture. And I love that study Bible because it gives me so much insight. So here you see me just fiddling with the layout where I want to put all those different words from the scripture that it referred to. And then once I get an idea of where I want to put these, I take out my Distress ink in the walnut stain, and I edge all of those sayings. And as a side note, I printed those using my Creative Memories marker pen and my Cameo. I love doing that, and the reason I used the Cameo originally was I wanted to cut these out as little tags, kind of maybe not tags, maybe more like banners. But after spending several hours on it, I opted just to print these on mixed media paper and cut them out as rectangles. So that's all I'm doing here is inking the edges with that stain and to give it a little more definition. I even thought about using my Stabilo pen after it was all done, but I didn't know how that would react with water, so I opted not to use that. So next thing, then after I have all those edged, I have to adhere them down, and again I pull out my Yoo-Hoo glue stick and give it a good coating on the back, and that's just wax paper that I use to keep all the glue contained, and it's a little less messy, although I still get it all over my hands. So I'm just adhering this down, and the glue stick also helps if you're using the Distress ink because it won't react like if I was using a liquid like a matte medium or gel medium or 3M adhesive or any of those wet type of glues. So again, I pull out my brayer and make sure that it's adhered down well, and make sure that I can open and close that page without everything ripping, and continue on until all those 7 verses are done. Then this week I actually printed the verse from the His Kingdom Come website, and ended up deciding to put the verse there on the right side of the page rather than up in the clouds, because I really didn't want anything to cover those beautiful clouds and my vision of going up to heaven, and I just didn't want that to be covered up, so I put it over in the right hand side, and that was that. Then after I was done with that, I wanted to edge the page. So at first I started with my Distress ink and the walnut stain, but what I discovered is magazine print doesn't edge real well. It didn't show up as dark as that walnut stain is. Once I put it on, you'll see here, you see a little bit, but it doesn't take like your journal page would, or scrapbook paper or mixed media paper or anything like that. So I still went ahead and went around the paper with that, and then I pulled out my Inka Gold in gold, thinking, well, maybe that would give it some highlights. So I start down that path on the top of the page, and you really can't see that either. Just a little bit close up, but certainly you can't tell anything on this video that I even put that down. But nonetheless, I just put it at the top because it really wasn't showing up well. Then I decided, well, maybe it was the Distress ink that was the problem, so I'll get out my Memento Rich Cocoa ink and a sponge and see if I can go around the edge with that, and that would show. So I tried that, and it worked a little bit better, but honestly, after 3 tries of trying to edge that page, I was a little frustrated that it didn't edge any better than it did. So there's a little bit of coloration around the edges, but not what I would typically like to see around this. But I gave up trying after those 3 inks, and just went around the entire page with this Memento Rich Cocoa, just to make sure it was an even coat all the way around. And then that was it as far as that goes. Then I thought I was done with the page at this point, but what you'll see at the very end with the pictures is I ended up adding a father and a little girl on the pathway, because I had put this aside and went to supper and came back, and I thought, well, I need to have someone walking on the pathway. And what better than a father and daughter, or mother and son, teaching their child while at the same time striving for holiness and heaven themselves. So I just cut those out of my silhouette and used a little walnut stain on that. And that was the end of the page. So thank you for watching. Have a great day, and God bless.